don't understand her strategy of telling the story. I don't get it. Because the typical fantasy reader wants to hear about the villain. They want to find out about the doomed romance. Yes, that's cliche. Yes, that's a trope. But ultimately, that's what's interesting. I don't care about the backstory of your grandma. I don't care about that.
But that's what people want. We want those tropes because that's what makes people like dive into a book, because it's like enemies to lovers. Cool, I'm all for that. Or friends to lovers. Or, you know, doomed romance. Like, whatever. Like, those are the things that drive us to select the books that we do.
Welcome to the Novel Universe with your hostesses Ashley and Dawn. We rate and review the newest and most buzzworthy books. We are true book club girls who don't always agree, but do enjoy a good book discussion. I'm Ashley, the fantasy architect.
And I'm Dawn, the criticizer of books.
Grab your favorite beverage and come and enjoy our universe.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Novel Universe with your hosts Dawn and Ashley. And today we will be talking about, as a car goes by, The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik, which is book 2 in the Scholomance series. This is an early review. This book is not published until September 28th. Whoa. We are soups early. We got an early copy on Edelweiss. And we thought, you know, not a lot of books are released in the summer, so we decided to do something a little early this time. So if you have not read book 1, we will be spoiling stuff in book 1. We will have a spoiler-free edition of this book. However, the spoiler-free will be spoiling book 1. So if you haven't read book 1, I would recommend you hop out now and read that first and come back and read book 2. And then listen to our spoiler part, because there will be hella spoilers. I love how all the traffic, it's like hella traffic now. There was no traffic before. Okay. Yeah. All right. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. I got everything. All right. Let's get into start that over. Let's get into the description of The Last Graduate. Okay. In Wisdom Shelter, that's the official what? No, let's skip all that. Okay. Our beloved school does its best to devour all its students, but now that I've reached my senior year and have actually won myself a handful of allies, it suddenly developed a very particular craving for me. And even if I somehow make it through the endless waves of maleficaria that it keeps throwing at me in between grueling homework assignments, I haven't any idea of how my allies and I are going to make it through the graduation hall alive. Unless, of course, I finally accept my foretold destiny of dark sorcery and destruction. That would certainly let me sail straight out of here, the course of wisdom, surely. Good Lord. This description is a perfect example of how this book is written. This is an interesting description. I've never read something like this before. I'm not hating it, but I didn't like it in the book. But anyway, last sentence. But I'm not giving in, not to the malls, not to the fate, and especially not to the Scholomance. I'm going to get myself and my friends out of this hideous place for good, even if it's the last thing I do. All right. That was the description.
This is so funny because that description is not mirrored in Goodreads.
Okay. Yeah. I got that from Amazon because Goodreads wouldn't come up for me, so.
Oh, I'm curious. I just am like, oh, that's a different way to go about it. I might have enjoyed this a little better, maybe.
Uh-oh. All right.
Is it time for rating time, Dawn?
It's time for a rating. Per usual, we will give our rating, we will do a spoiler-free review, and then we will give spoilers. And so, Ashley, what did you rate The Last Graduate?
A 1.
A 1. Dawn DNF'd at 60%. I have never DNF'd a book for a podcast. I usually just power through. It's usually fine. But last night I texted Ashley and was like, and we never do this. We never talk about the book. But I was like, I'm debating DNFing, and I'm not going to be that person that comes to the book club and hasn't read the book. I refuse to be that person. So I was like, Ashley, I don't think I can make it, dude. And luckily she wasn't happy with it either. So
Well, and here's the surprise, surprise. Ashley had her first moment of, do I DNF a book for podcasting, which is something like Dawn and I have been doing this for over a year together, and we've never had that problem. There's always been like one person that likes it just a little bit more, so we'll power through and like really dish it out on how we feel about this book. But oh my goodness, this is not a consolation as to how we felt about this book. Like, I'm highly disappointed in what I just read. And I finished the book, and I am extremely disappointed in this series. I was so excited for a new fantasy YA series that had all of these things going for it. It had a lot of mirrors of, like, you know, the enclaves with the immoral instruments, and having that Hogwartsy type feel, but not at the same time. Like, it was just a whole new realm for us to kind of dive into and really see if this was like the next best thing, because there's been a lot of people trying to re-enter into that fantasy realm since the Hunger Games, you know, and Divergent and Moss's book, and like all of these things that have kind of come out around like the same time. There's always been this battle for like the next best one. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately this was not it.
No, this is actually adult. It's not YA.
Yeah, see it, but it was saying it was YA though.
I mean, I could not give this book to a teen. They would die of boredom. There's just no way a teen would get through this book.
Well, and that's why I was like, who would I recommend this book to? No one.
No.
I would recommend this book to no one.
Maybe I would recommend it. Maybe I'd recommend it to fans of Naomi Novik, because I've only read one other book by her, and it was her first one, and I didn't like that one. So maybe she has a certain style people like, and I know a lot of people like her books. So maybe I'd recommend it to her fans. Which, I mean, why would you recommend this book? They're going to read it anyway.
Exactly. I don't know. Yeah, we can get into the things that we have to say about this book.
I don't have much to say because, like I said, I only got through 60% and I was skip reading. I wanted to DNF at like 20%. That's where I was just like, yeah, this isn't happening. So.
And I always like stick it out because I'm like, okay, there has to be that turn, right? That point that we're like, okay, something has caught our eye. We're going to just see how this goes. And that just did not happen. This book could have been shortened by the number of pages.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you're going to do this story? Take out 300 pages, please.
Yep.
And there you go. That's the story. Is right there. So, all right. Do you want me to start with things I did not like, and you can just comment?
Well, I really only have one thing to say.
Want to do yours?
So I'll just get mine out of the way, and then you could just talk the whole time, because I'm gonna be learning with the rest of you, because I don't know what the heck happened in this book, but so what, like, the first book I gave a 3.5, and I was, but it ended well, and the premise is good because it's something different. We have a girl who is an anti-hero. She is prophesied to be a huge villain, but she's trying very hard. Well, and I don't know if she's trying hard not to. She's just trying to survive school. That's all she can focus on. She's not worried about anything else, which is admirable. However, we do see little instances. Her personality is a little prickly. We do see some stuff bubbling under the surface, which is really cool. And so that's what I liked about the book is she's an anti-hero. She's prophesied to destroy everything. That's not quite what we see in the book. And so my problem with this book is that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in her being an anti-hero. And the end of book 1, where she's supposed to stay away from Orion, who is her friend and almost her boyfriend. Like, he saved her life. She's like, he can't be bad. He saved us. He saved me and a lot of other people. That's the story I want to read. But that is not the story Naomi wanted to tell. She wanted to tell the story of the school. And while ordinarily I like world building, I don't like her writing style. So I did not like the execution of how she wrote this magic school. I think in the hands of like V.E. Schwab, who writes worlds really well, I think I would have liked it. So in other words, me DNFing is a me problem. It's not the book's problem. You might love this book. I don't like the writing style, and so it might just be me, and maybe Ashley too. I don't know. But about
yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I think that Naomi has a very specific style of writing. Now, the amount of info dumping that she does, I see that, you know, coming out of the gates as like, okay, she's telling me something on purpose.
Yeah.
So therefore, I need to really like soak everything in, and you know, something good will come out of it, right? Like that was one of the things that we liked about this book. The first book was that it had immense world building that was something to be applauded for, because not a lot of people spend the time to talk about the world like that. Like, that was her choice. However, the story lacks, you know, its pace because of that choice. We lose interest in, I have to say, the school. We lose interest in the characters. There's nothing driving us to continue to keep reading, because the information that's given to us is so much of like the author just telling me things versus me figuring it out through the story.
Okay.
And because her choice is to just tell me all of this information, it's not helping me want to be immersed in the story, because there's nothing left to find out. It's all kind of told to you. And that was one of my biggest problems with this book. I'm the fantasy architect. I love world building, and I was having such a hard time because you're giving me information about an enclave, which is what everyone wants to be a part of, because you get like a big family unit, if you will, a support system, access to mana, which is like your power that you get given through hardships and working and like all the stuff like that, and the, you know, bad demon males that you kill and whatnot. It's all something to work towards, but you're giving me information about backgrounds that it doesn't even matter, because I'm still stuck inside of this school. We're still stuck inside the school. We're not exiting out of the school. So all of this unnecessary information, and I'm going to say it like that, does not help your story move along, because I'm still stuck in one area. And I've been stuck in that same area since book one. We have not moved on.
Yeah.
And I was hoping in this book that we'd have gotten to senior year, and you would see what happened to them after the graduation, right? The big send-off, the big fight for your lives. And that's not what happens. And I'm not going to say anything else, because it'll like spoil everything for you, but it is a matter of like, we're still just repeating book one, so nothing's new to me anymore. Everything is like, I've done this before. Okay.
Yeah, like the bits that I read, it seemed to be really repetitive. Like, she would fight the malls. Mm-hmm. Then the freshmen and other people would be like, oh my God, you're amazing, or oh my God, you're scary. And then it would just repeat over and over, and it just seems like that was constantly happening. Mm-hmm. I don't care. And when you said that, you know, it was like 400 pages, it's like, I don't think Naomi knows how to write a story succinctly. She would drone on and on and on for pages about the same thing. She kept talking about this one enclave being destroyed, and like 3 chapters later, which is essentially 60 pages later, we're still talking about it, and we haven't given it people. She's just like, no one knows why. Then stop talking about it. I don't care until you give me more information. It drove me nuts. I couldn't anymore.
Exactly. I mean, and to be fair, like, the book does get to a point where all of a sudden it's like, okay, here we go. We finally have gained momentum, you're not just telling me information. I'm actually getting some dialogue here between the characters, which is my second dislike about this book. The lack of dialogue severely handicaps this story because you lose interest in the characters that you are supposed to feel strongly about. And because that doesn't happen, like, it stinks, like, really bad. The best part of this book is when Elle is talking to her friends and it's longer than a paragraph. The whole entire, like, dialogue between them, I think it's like 2 pages worth. And you're like, okay, finally, like, yes, I'm invested in what's happening here. And then it goes on to tell me about a painting that so-and-so painted, and, you know, they gave this power, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to, oh, now we're fighting mouths again. And now we're circling over here again. And then we're going back to, like, it was just this cycle of information.
Yeah.
Let's see. The next thing that I really like had a problem with is that the cliffhanger that we are given at the end of book 1 is not answered at all. It is not answered. And I had such a big problem with that because that's the whole reason why, like, that's one of the reasons why we were driving into book 2, is like Novik does a really good job of setting up a cliffhanger, and you're like, okay, like, I need to know that bit of information. And when we find out what is supposedly the answer as to why she should do X, Y, and Z, it's like, that's it. That's it. I was so unhappy with that answer, because then I felt like it wasn't really like the answer that we were looking for, because of the way Novik set up certain characters in the first book. I don't feel like it stayed, you know, congruent with how they actually are as people.
Interesting. Well, I guess I will find out what that was in the spoiler edition, because I got to 60% and then I did read the last page. But anyway, this is what I was saying, that what I feel is important to the story, Novak didn't think it was important. The school and the world building was more important than the actual story, the actual plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that I really just had a big problem with is that there was nothing more about this prophecy about Elle. There was nothing more to that. Huge character letdown, by the way, because don't set me up telling me one thing and then all of a sudden this is how the story is going to get played out. This is too cookie cutter. I don't like it. I don't like what's happening at all. And I can get into that because it is a spoiler, so I can't really tell you, like, what happens. And I just I felt like we were supposed to be invested in a lot of the characters that Elle starts to befriend in this book, which is so abnormal for the Scholomance universe, that you're not supposed to have friends at all. You barter with magic, right? You barter magic to make sure someone saves your butt or helps you with an assignment or whatever. Like, that's just how it is. And so we get introduced to all of these other characters, which are super feisty and very interesting. And I just feel like if we would have had more dialogue between the main character and the secondary characters, this book would have thrived in so many ways, even though we were just in the school. We would have thrived way more if we would have had that. And lastly, the story was too slow for that ending. I'm sorry. It was way too slow for the ending that happened. So.
I will say one other thing that drove me bananas. The number of times she said the word manna, I wanted to shoot myself in the face. Oh my God. My old Kindle used to, like, if you tap on a word, it would like tell you how many times. This Kindle didn't do it, and I was pissed because I wanted to see just how many times she said the word manna. But it had to have been like 500. Easily 500 times.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep.
That's minor, but it drove me nuts.
Yes. And if I had to hear, my thing was hearing about backstories in enclaves, but guess what? We never get to see them. We never get to see them. It's BS. Like, I don't care about someone's grandmother doing this, and this, and then they, that's what started this downward spiral in this enclave. Oh, who cares? No one's going there. We're all staying inside the school. That's it. It's fine. It's fine.
This is not Ashley's and I's first adult fantasy book. I know we read a lot of YA, but at first I was like, okay, well, maybe this is typical adult. No. I have read some fantastic adult fantasy. This is not typical. I don't understand what Novik was trying to do here. I don't understand her strategy of telling the story. I don't get it. Because the typical fantasy reader wants to hear about the villain. They want to find out about the doomed romance. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's cliche. Yes, that's a trope. But ultimately, that's what's interesting. I don't care about the backstory of your grandma. I don't care about that.
But that's what people want. We want those tropes because that's what makes people like dive into a book, because it's like enemies to lovers. Cool, I'm all for that. Or friends to lovers. Or, doomed romance. Like, whatever. Like, those are the things that drive us to select the books that we do. I have nothing that I liked about this book, because there was something that I was like hoping would be like a saving grace in this book. I have nothing that I liked about it.
Well, you gave it a 1, so I don't. And
I'm never this harsh. I always find something that I liked about a book. I'm never this harsh.
I don't think you've ever given a 1.
I think no, because I gave. So what we had originally deemed our worst book so far was Lore by Alexandra Bracken, and I think I even gave that book a 2. Because I was still able to read through it and complete it and not like start to go, oh my goodness, I want a DNF like right now. Not good.
All right. All ready for spoilers?
Please.
All right. Well, that has been our review of our spoiler-free review of The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. Our next podcast, we will be doing our mid-year freak out a little bit late. Our bad. And so you can join us for the next podcast of our late mid-year freak out if you're not going to be joining us for the spoiler edition. If you are joining us for the spoiler edition, spoilers begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's going to be all Ashley because I got nothing.
Okay, so I want to start with, like, Dawn and I had some predictions for this book in our last time that we talked about the first one. We had some predictions as to what we were hoping to happen. Okay, and so one of them is Elle being this anti-hero, right? And just wanting to go through school and complete it and just to get out. Like, she wanted to not be this bad maleficer, but at the same time, she's still being drawn towards, if you will, the dark side. Like, she's still, like, is drawn towards this power using, and she doesn't really know what's going on, which makes Elle a super duper likable anti-villain. Like, I really liked her as, or this anti-hero, excuse me, and all of that. And in this book, I don't care about her. She has lost so much of her oomph to keep going that it sucks, because her way of switching her prophecy prediction, okay, are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
She decides that she is going to put all of her power into helping everyone get out of the school.
But that's not the prophecy. The prophecy, she destroys all the enclaves. So what is that?
I'm sorry. That's what? Like, okay. And this whole entire story, Elle has been offered multiple spots in different enclaves, and especially New York, which is like one of the biggest enclaves. It's the enclave that Orion's from, and a whole bunch of other people, and they've offered her a spot because they started recognizing that the Mals were coming after Elle, because the school apparently wanted Elle to save the students. Okay. Completely, like, not how we saw the school at first, right? The school is run without adults. Like, there's no adult teachers there. It is all just a matter of magic, where you literally get assigned your work in a classroom, and that's it. Like, there's no adults within this building at all, which is great, you know. And Elle gets taken down this stairwell because she feels that the school is trying to tell her something, because she is now being targeted for all of these attacks. And I'm like, okay, you're not the only, like, magic wielding student within this school. There are other students in here as well who are not dumb, mind you. Like, they've been given all these spells that are passed down from, you know, their enclaves and grandparents and yada, yada, yada. So why are you special? What makes you so special that the school is going to single you out to do X, Y, and Z? So she gets sent down this, like, elevator, not elevator, but, like, back entrance, which takes her to the graduation hall. And she learns that the school's ultimate thing was to provide sanctuary to all magic wielding students. It was supposed to be a safe place for them. Okay, the school that we know is trying to kill you at every single turn. So, what happened here? Okay, so this is still in lieu of this whole prophecy thing, because it doesn't make any sort of sense.
I'm confused. Yeah, go ahead.
So she, like I said, goes down this shaft. She figures out that because they did the cleansing, they killed off all the Mals. Patience and Precious, which were like Patience and Fortitude, which were these big Mals at the end that were like consuming all the other ones. They're like ancient above all times type of thing. Do you remember them at the end of the last story? And they were something to be feared, right? They're gone. They're not down there. There ain't nothing down there except these little baby larva things. And she realizes that within the inscription over the doors, that this place is supposed to be a place of solitude and safety for students who are wielding magic. And she realizes that there's cracks in it. That's how the Mal get into it. So then they don't know how to fix the door, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, there's no Mal stopping them from getting out. She could have walked right out and been zipped back to wherever she came from in Wales. And it's like, Well, how we got to that point made no sense.
So is that the end?
This is middle of the story. So she learns that they could have just waltzed right out. This whole entire time, she could have waltzed right out and been fine. But she decides that she is going to listen to the school because the school showed her this on purpose to help her restore the balance. We talked about in our previous episode of this book, the first one, that there's a consequence when you do something against magic. There's always a consequence that happens. There's a cycle, okay? Because they did that whole cleansing thing where they made sure that, you know, the males weren't like trying to kill everyone at all times. Well, the consequence was that there was no males for them to kill because they were all going to her. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so what you did the last time when you did the cleansing or whatever to reestablish the door or the flute or whatever it was that held everything in the balance, well, now they threw everything off balance because now there was nothing for the mouths to eat because there's nothing else coming in. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So she decides that she is going to now save everyone, not just the seniors, but the juniors, the sophomore, and the freshmen, because now the school needs to be cleansed completely. Okay?
I don't get it.
And somehow she is all powerful to do this because New York gives her an energy sharer, a mana sharer. So now she has endless amounts to work on her spells to protect everyone. Her and Orion. Well, because Orion was all pissy because there were no mouths for him to kill. Guess who's not storing up mana for the whole entire enclave? Orion isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who was freeloading off of Orion? The whole enclave was, because he was killing all the males. Every time you kill a male, you get a huge store of mana, and it goes back to the enclave. Okay, so that was our first thing. Little Missy was gonna fight against her prophecy. Excuse me. And she doesn't get to do that because she decides to save everybody. And manages to do so.
Yeah, I don't, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand that logic of all that you just said about, because while I was reading this book, I thought the Mals were trying to kill her because they knew that she would be the end of the world. So I thought, okay, well, maybe they're just trying to kill her off. But I guess
no,
not.
They were going towards someone who had like more of the magic to help reestablish everything. That's what they were telling us.
Okay, so I had a question. Okay, so this school has been around for a real long time. Has it always supposedly been a safe haven for students? And someone put the Mals in there?
No, it's not an indefinitely safe like levy system apparently with the doors. So every 4 years, it gets to a point where then it's all out of control, where we see in the first book of there being mouths everywhere within the school, and you continuously having to watch your back and to check behind the seats, under your seat, like behind the doors, like outlets, vents, all that stuff like that. It's because there's a malfunction in it, because the amount of power that was put into the doors, the enclave still weren't putting in enough power to keep the school running as it was supposed to. Okay? And I might have missed a little bit of pieces, and I am just saying that because I started skipping a little bit, like,
okay,
because it was so out of left field, and it was told to us that I was just like, are you serious right now? So then the whole rest of the book, since she finds that out, is her trying to win over the other groups of people to tell them, stay with me and I will make sure you get out alive. But we all have to work together. She's not a likable character. She is completely like as we heard in the first book, her friend told her that you're like when someone forgets your umbrella in the rain. That's what you're like. This is the character that we're supposed to be like, okay, she's gonna save us all. No. You know. So then you get Orion in there because Orion, or Orion, however you want to say his name, Orion gets pissy because now there's not enough mana for him to continue to slaughter things, right? We talked about in the first book that Orion has a hidden agenda. He has to. That's why we're being told to keep away from him. And we had said that we predicted that he was supposed to kill her or stop her in some way. That was our original prediction with this book. Because why in the world would your mom say to you, keep away from Orion Lake, you know? And all the while we learned that Orion, I say his name so wrong all the time, that Orion has always had an abnormal problem because he enjoys killing mouse. He enjoys it. It's like a sport to him. And he would go through the Enclave's power within a matter of like minutes because he would use so much of it in order to kill these mouse. So he was not allowed to have an energy sharing bracelet because he pulls too much from the Enclaves. But he can kill mouths and send the mana energy back up to their pool.
Okay.
So all these other students from the New York, Enclave are freeloading off of Orion.
So what does that have to do with the end of book 1?
Nothing. He was odd because he enjoys killing. That's it.
Well, maybe Elle is a Mal and he's going to enjoy killing her in the next book? There's got to be something to that.
Because at the end of this book, she gets every single last one of these people out, and Patience and Fortitude somehow from the depths of the school rise back up, okay? And they kill, Patience kills Fortitude. And Orion sees that giant Mal standing there as Ella's telling him, come on, hustle your butt, let's go. We only get one shot at this to keep everyone safe. And he shoves her through the door. That's the end of the book.
What door?
Out of the school.
Oh, okay.
He shoves her out. And so I sat there and I went, oh no, homeboy didn't. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. He has such a, malicious, aura about him where he was like, I'm going to go and take out this Mal. I'm feeling it. High on endorphins type of feeling it. Because when they get to the graduation hall and they're playing their little flute thing to help this magic thing seal over, other Mals are trickling in and whatnot, finally back into the school because it's been opened. So they're all waiting outside to get back in. He's like a kid in a candy store, just killing Mals. That's just the best way I can put it. And he goes, Elle, I love you so much. And he just shoves her through. So what do you think happened? What do you think happened? At the end of this book. And we get all of this unnecessary information about the Enclaves and backstories, and the whole dang time we are spent in this school doing runs, practicing our runs over and over again. Practicing do we sleep with them? Do we not? Because if you haven't done anything to protect against that, you could walk out here with a baby and your partner won't make it out. All over and over again. And their relationship is so out of nowhere that when they do consummate their relationship, it's like, are you serious? Yeah, it's just, whatever. I'm over it. I'm over it. Like, I was, like, so disappointed, like, in what happened. How are you going to get every single student out? How are you going to do that? Just magically? Oh, and guess which student can't do normal spells, like sweep a floor?
Chloe.
Oh, Elle can't.
Oh.
Elle can't do simple spells because she spends all her time in all these hard ones, and she doesn't even know how to be a normal wizard, if you will, with normal spells. Because she doesn't know them.
Alrighty then.
So, yeah. First of all, why do we stay away from Orion Lake? Maybe because you have the chance of getting pregnant. Okay. That's how I felt this was answered.
Oh, okay.
This is how I felt it was answered. Like, he has been seen as the oddball in his enclave because he enjoys the killing. He gets the rush, like the adrenaline rush from doing so. And doesn't care. Oh, he's a bad guy. Ooh. Okay.
All right.
So, yeah. Worst book of the year. Worst book of the year. That's all I have to say.
Well, Ashley said it. Worst book of the year. I DNF for the first time. I've been doing this podcast for 4 years. I've never DNF'd. Never. So.
Worst book of the year.
That speaks volumes. All right. You have anything else to?
No, I feel like I'm just going to continue to nail it in the coffin. I don't think there's anything.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. Neither one of us enjoyed it. We hope you enjoy it better than us. Our next podcast will be the mid-year freak out that we're very late on, but that's cool. And until next time, we'll catch you in the next podcast.
Bye.